Who are you? What's your name? Where do you come from? What color are your eyes? Are you male, female, Chinese, Australian, Indian, Arab? Regardless of the answer, I know two things. One, you are a human being. Two, you are a citizen of the 21st century. Therefore, what I'm about to say is extremely relevant to you. As a human, our strength is not in the sharpness of our teeth or the strength of our jaws, our astute reflexes or our fleet of foot, but rather in our unprecedented capacity to work together, form societies and function as one. This is how we survive. The premise of any democracy is that its subjects formulate the direction of the society. This addresses both the integral oneness of the community and the dynamic uniqueness of the individual. My concern as a citizen regards the current direction of this global society and how it directly compromises our survival. This direction can be discussed under the underlying theme of freedom. Freedom is a term synonymous with democracy, but has recently been used in a variety of situations which transform the contemporary experience of freedom into a 21st century freedom. This 21st century freedom, I will attempt to argue, is a perversion of the individual liberty required for any progressive and free society. To discuss this, I must briefly refer to the 19th century philosopher Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Getting to the point, Hegelianism prescribes a Hegelian dialectic or a Hegelian method to extract truth, which can be described in the following example. Imagine the idea of heat. Heat means nothing without some understanding of something which is cooler. When comparing these two concepts, Hegelian resolution is formed, resulting in various temperatures. Or rather, the thesis is heat and the antithesis is the cold. A resolution constitutes our understanding of temperature. Under Hegelian dialectic, this understanding of temperature means nothing without an opposite Hegelian thesis and antithesis. Long story short, Hegel says that our minds can't contemplate anything which can't be split up into two polar opposites. Make sense? Good. Now, how does this affect you? This understanding has massive implications in politics and society. Many of Hegel's admirers prescribe to Hegel's definition of free will to their own political approach. Hegel in his book examines free will as something which can only realize itself within the paradigm of a thesis and antithesis. Hegel and his followers believed it was the duty of the state to institutionalize political conflict of interest, so that progress is made, or in his words, the state is God's march on earth. Now, consider your own political situation. Do you believe we are free? Do you believe that you have a choice where we're heading? Yeah? No? Maybe? Okay, then answer this question in your mind. What's your politics? I'll let you think about that. Was your answer left? Was it right? Was it center? I asked this question to many people, and the answer is invariably one of these. Now, next question. What's the difference between the left and the right today? I'll give you time to think. But while you're thinking, let's see for ourselves how these two choices manifest themselves in a so-called debate. So, got an answer? What's the difference between the left and the right? Indeed, for any country to be free, there must indeed be a difference. Now think about your answer. Now think about Hegelian dialectic. Do you see where I'm heading with this? Hegelian philosophy has truly precipitated in what we today see as political bickering and polemic. Under this Hegelian doctrine, to influence change I must pick a side, left or right, thesis or antithesis. Do you see a problem yet? The problem is that whilst people are bickering between trivial issues of left-right party lines, there are issues that are not discussed by this left-right device and therefore unheard of. These people don't fit into the Hegelian dialectic that is Western democracy. What issues could this be, you ask? It's the aim of this and following episodes to document and discuss issues circumvented by mainstream politics. It's my concern that this left-right dialectic has been exploited to create a control mechanism where people are satisfied by the illusion of free will and democracy. What am I talking about? Here it is bluntly. This concern is that the left and the right are both influenced at least by a single entity wishing to usurp and remove power from the citizens. This effort is orchestrated by a ruling elite, a covert oligarchy. They support both of the two-party choices simultaneously, which serve as a one-party Hegelian state. Conspiracy theory? Crazy? Paranoid? Remember that the greatest manifestation of the concept of a free nation is the foundation of the USA via the American Revolution and the Declaration of Independence. I think it's important to remind people that it was George Washington who exposed the conspiracy of a regular and systematic plan of oppression, endeavouring by every piece of art and despotism to fix the shackles of slavery upon us. Washington's realization was that he was fully convinced, as I am of my own existence, that there has been a regular and systematic plan forced to enforce the British agenda. This realization was not a popular one initially. If these few brave people did not publicly deplore their realization of this secret dark and deep, their pigmy would have resulted in the British colony of the Americas, rather than the independent United States of America. In hindsight, prudence and skepticism of our leaders and elite form the cornerstone of all free societies, where opposition is welcomed, not met with bad taste. Instead, today, all conspiracy theories are seen bluntly as attacks on the nation state, where people would otherwise place faith in leaders rather than individual initiative and independent thought. So, let us venture forth as writers of our own destiny, as independent thinkers and thus the very architects of free societies. Where do we go now? It's popular opinion that supposedly informed citizens in a society such as ours cannot easily be duped or lied to. However, usually the only tool by which citizens become informed is through the mainstream media. Take a breath. Open your mind. In the mid-70s, the CIA executed a plan codenamed Operation Mockingbird, which aimed to influence and infiltrate domestic and foreign mainstream media outlets. This is not a conspiracy theory, this is fact. There was a commission later established by Congress to investigate this in 1975. Key individuals and roles in publishing journalistic positions internationally were recruited or filled by the CIA for aims of Operation Mockingbird. It was reported by the same commission that the CIA currently maintains a network of several hundred foreign individuals around the world who provide intelligence for the CIA and at times attempt to influence opinion through the use of covert propaganda. These individuals provide the CIA with direct access to a large number of newspapers and periodicals, scores of press services and news agencies, radio and television stations, commercial book publishers, and other foreign media outlets. Interesting stuff. With such an explosive finding, the media didn't say a word. The people were left ignorant. Why? Perhaps it was successful. Let's go forward to today. the 21st century. The mainstream media internationally is dominated by 8 major corporations, and there is no reason to assume that one of the most influential intelligence agencies around the world, the CIA, would suddenly forfeit influence gained during Operation Mockingbird. Indeed, with the technical revolutions of the past 30 years, we can only assume this influence has consolidated. So, think. Who's winning here? Media neutrality, or a few men in suits? JFK, John F. Kennedy, at the height of his presidency, issued a speech entitled The President and the Press, April 27, 1961. He echoes my very concerns. Hear him out.
Good serviceman. My topic tonight is a more sober one, of concern to publishers as well as editors. I want to talk about our common responsibilities in the face of a common danger. The events of recent weeks may have helped to illuminate that challenge for some, but the dimensions of its threat have loomed large on the horizon for many years. Whatever our hopes may be for the future, for reducing this threat or living with it, there is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity. This deadly challenge imposes upon our society 2 requirements of direct concern, both to the press and to the President. 2 requirements that may seem almost contradictory in tone, but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger. And yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. if the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat. Then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War, in short, with a wartime discipline no democracy would ever hope or wish to match. Nevertheless, it is the unprecedented nature of this challenge that also gives rise to your second obligation, an obligation which I share, and that is our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security, and we intend to do it. It was early in the 17th century that Francis Bacon remarked on three recent inventions already transforming the world: the compass, gunpowder, and the printing press. Now the links between the nations, first forged by the compass, have made us all citizens of the world. the hopes and threats of one becoming the hopes and threats of us all. In that one world's effort to live together, the evolution of gunpowder to its ultimate limit has warned mankind of the terrible consequences of failure. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
What I and fellow concerned citizens will explore in the coming episodes is the exact nature of this dark entity, or in the words of John F. Kennedy, this monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. I invite you to listen to what I say, oppose it, welcome it, correct it. In doing so, we take the very first step required by people to regain control of our society. We begin not to think of a mass, but for ourselves. The media has failed us. Our politicians bicker in conflict over the trivial and small. Within this conflict, the illusion of choice sustains many. As a consequence, overt attempts to erode our civil liberties and freedoms has become a regular daily occurrence. In all free societies, individual liberty is the most valued and protected national treasure. In all totalitarian regimes, it's always the first to go. It was once said that those who sacrifice liberty for security deserve neither, simply because we cannot trust leaders to resign power once we let them have it. If history has taught us anything, it's that it's too great of a risk.